And so this was the format for receipt and payment, right, for the central government. So please, you need to, like I said the last time, you should be able to know the difference between the receipt and payment and the income and expenditure. Receipt and payment basically that deals with how much money we have received and how much money we have spent and what is left, balance carried down. So you start with the balance brought forward of the cash, and then you add the receipts less the total payment, and you get the balance carried down. Or you can start with the receipts less payment, get the surplus or deficits between the receipt and payment, and then add the starting balance, and you get a closing balance. But because it is public sector, we do that with actual and budget, because according to the International Public Sector Accounting Standard 24, we must prepare public sector accounts using showing actual and budgeted, so as to compare and know what is happening. So this was the receipt and payment from format we went through. We came to the income and expenditure, or the revenue and expenditure. And so the difference is that here we are talking of the revenue generated for the period against the expenditure incurred. The difference is surplus. Okay, so there are certain items that are receipt, and they may not necessarily be payment. They may not necessarily be earned, or this is something that are income. For example, domestic borrowing, what do you call it? Yeah, domestic borrowing that you are going to receive, external. These are not revenues for you, so you cannot just add as revenue earned, right? So look at the difference between receipt and payment, and then be able to prepare the account. We went through this simple question, which is likely to maybe come in your examination, just to prepare the receipt and payment for the consolidated fund account. Then we looked at the preparation of accounts for the ministries, departments, and agencies. And so we looked at the various functions of the heads of department, heads of the MDAs, the heads of departments, and then looked at the method of raising or financing the expenditure and commitment of MDAs. Look at the appropriation votes, compensation transfer, revenue retention, and that is the means of actually releasing, or method of releasing funds for the expenditure of the MMDAs. Look at it. Then we looked at the vote accounting, appropriation, and annual estimate. We looked at the vote management and control. Who is the vote controller? What are his functions? Principal spending officer in many of the MDAs and their functions. Then we look at financial encumbrance. This is not, it's an old thing that we used to be there in the public sector. That's to a method of releasing funds for to meet the expenditure of the MDAs, but it is no more in use now. So don't worry yourself about that one. Then the difference between expenditure warrant and provisional warrant and reverse warrant. So look at them carefully. Okay. Appropriation, balance of operation, and revote warrant and all that. Then account maintained under the vote accounting is what we looked at. So this is what we look at. We look at the appropriation, that is the estimate, that is the budget, the actual, and then the difference between the actual and budget, whether it is under expenditure or over expenditure. Okay, so that's how it is done. We look at the content and format of financial report of MDAs. So the monthly accounts, and then the annual accounts. So we look at the revenue, income, and expenditure accounts, and then the revenue and expenditure account. Then we look at the statement of financial position. These are the basic two accounts that you are going to prepare under the public sector account, that is central government accounts. So revenue and expenditure account, then statement of financial position. But what I said was that your ability to now classify the expenditure into what the gift mix has given, the 8 classification of expenditure, and then the sources of revenue for government is what you have to be very smart with it, okay? Because the expenditure classification are here. So in a typical examination question, if you have a lot of number of items that put together to become compensation of employees, you should be able to know if you are talking of compensation of employees, what makes up compensation of employees? Anything related to payment, SNAIT, anything of welfare of workers and business come under compensation. Goods and services, and it may not be one item in a question that will be given to you. Maybe a number of items that will have to come under goods and services. We have explained what these classifications are. So once you know them, you can be able to prepare the account. Then when it comes to income and expenditure, we said assets are classified into financial asset and non-financial asset. What are financial assets? Okay, what are non-financial assets? Be able to understand that even in the theory, you can be asked to differentiate between financial asset and non-financial asset. So if you know those classification, and then what makes up financial asset, what makes up non-financial asset, you can easily get the total asset. And then now we come to liability. Then the difference between liability and asset gives you the accumulated fund. Okay, so that is it. Accumulated fund here is same as the capital or the financial position. Net financial position is same as the capital. So take note of that. So the questions that come, the work examples, which I'm going to have given you some of them. Then, so we are now moving on to Unit 4, which is about financial reporting in the local government. But the local government financial statement is very simple. That one is very simple. It's just about knowing how much expenditure they expect to incur, costs in the administration, and then for the app developmental project put together. And this is submitted to the consolidated, what do you call it, the regional coordinating council, and the regional coordinating council will put all the account of the various districts together to be sent to the Ministry of Finance. Okay, so the account is very simple, but there are certain things we have to learn about the local government. The first one is about decentralization in Ghana. We are going to look at this decentralization in Ghana, District Assembly's Common Fund, because most of the financing for this assembly is the transfer from the central government, which is this assembly common fund and any other fund. Then we have financial account of the metropolitan, municipal, and this assembly. That one is very simple. And then these standards, which you have done in the financial accounting, we're talking of IAS 10, which is event after the balance sheet. This is IAS 11, event, or FRS 11, event after the balance sheet date, or event after the reporting date. Then we have IAS 40, which is property, investment property, the same as the same content is what we have in the IPS AS. Yes, please. Hello. Hello. Somebody called.
Sir, please, I can't see the screen. The screen is not showing. I don't know whether it's in the network.
The screen is not showing.
The screen is not showing. I don't know whether it's my network.
Is it the same for everybody? Hello?
No, sir.
Some of you are seeing, is that not it? So who is not seeing? Gifty, are you the one?
Yes, sir. I don't know whether it's my network.
Yeah, I'm sure maybe you have to allow something on your phone or your
computer.
Others are seeing. Others are seeing it. All right, so we are talking about the sections that we are going to go through in Unit 4. With the first one is decentralization in Ghana. For decentralization, we all know what decentralization is. And so the Local Government Act actually requires that the administration of the nation should also be what? Be given, the power to be given to the local government, local authorities to actually administrate. Okay, we cannot concentrate everything on the national central government. So to be able to ensure fair distribution of development in the country, Local Government Act was promulgated to ensure that the governance is actually sent to the local areas. We are going to go through that one. Then we come to this Assembly Common Fund, which we have talked about. We have even talked about the administration of it and all that. Then we'll talk about the local final account of the metropolitans, municipals, and district assemblies. And that account is very simple. We have even talked about some of them. Then we'll also talk about the IPSAS 14, and that is event after reporting date. I'm saying that this has equivalent standard in the IFRS, which is IFRS 11 or 10 or so. Previously, it was IFRS 10. I think it has been changed to IFRS 11, which is event after the reporting date. And this standard just tells you that after financial statement, after the preparation of the financial statement, the period between the preparation of financial statement and the date the financial statement will be presented for board of directors, event that occurs, how do we treat it? We have sometimes we have too many event that actually will affect that.
Sir, your lines are breaking. Your line is breaking.
My line is, you can't hear well. Is it the same for everybody? Because the network is completely here. Half of the network is fully here. Is that I've toned down my voice because there are some people here. Apart from that, I don't think you should have breakages. Is it the same for everybody? Please, those of you are in class. So please check your network. If you can position yourself at a place where you can get the correct network, that will help you. So we'll talk about the investment property, and this is also has equivalent standard in IFRS, which is IS 40, investment property, and the requirements in that particular standard is same thing that we have here. Then we have the IPSAS 17, property, plant, and equipment. And remember that we have IS 16, which is also about property, plant, and equipment. So some of these standards, you know of them already. So once you know of them, we'll not waste much time there. All right. So by the time you go to the session, you should be able to explain the structure and levels of governance of local government. You should be able to describe the financial relationship between central and local government, and then also outline the functions of the district assemblies, common fund administrator, prepare the account of the common fund, and then explain metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies accounting and reporting system, and then explain the accounting treatment of related IPSAS, such as IPSAS 14, 16, and 17, as we talked about. Right. So when we say decentralization in Ghana, what does it mean? So by way of introduction, we say that Article 240 of the 1992 Constitution provides the establishment of a system of local government and administration, which should be decentralized. So the central government, the state of government, that is the president, his cabinet, and these things, they are the central government. Now, for development to be fairly distributed across the length and breadth of the country, the 1992 Constitution, Article 240, provide that we should establish local governments to see to the governance, to see to the administration of the policies of the government at the local levels. So the Local Government Act, which is at 1993 at 462, was promulgated to ensure that the functions, powers, responsibilities, and resources are all times transferred from the central government to the local government in the coordinated manner. The local government concept is what is termed the district assembly system in Ghana. So we all know what we mean by decentralization. It is a system of governance where the local areas are given the power, authority, and responsibility to administer whatever functions at the local level. There are advantages for that because the local needs are different from what the central government may think of. Okay, so if the power is given to the local administration to now look at what the developmental need, the various local areas, it will be far better than the central government sitting at the head, Accra or wherever, and then dictating what will be done at the local level. Because some districts may need schools, others may need roads, others may need market. The needs of the various local areas might not be the same. Accra is well developed, but some places at central region and distance may not be the same. So the reason the creation of the local government, and this was done in 1993 at 1993 at 469, that actually promulgated to ensure that these functions, the functions, powers, responsibility, and resources are all times transferred to the central, from the central government to the local government in the coordinated manner. The local government concept is what is termed the district assembly system in Ghana. So the district assembly system is what we call the local government, right? So if you go to the various regions, the regions are divided into the various districts. And so we have the district chief executive, who is the administrative head, and some other government appointees who see to the development of the area. So that is about the central government. This was contained in Article 240 of the 1992 Constitution, and that actually gave birth to the Act 462, and the function, the Act actually ensured that functions of government, powers, responsibility, and resources are at all times transferred from the central government. And when we talk of the central government, we're talking of the government and its government, the president and its cabinet ministers, as well as the MPs and judiciary, those three arms of government. And then they have to transfer the money from to the various local government to ensure proper development of the local areas. Now, concept of this as decentralization. We know decentralization is a response to the challenges of centralized system. And when we talk of centralized system, we are talking about a system where the head office actually dictates what's supposed to be done at the local areas. Many organizations are applying the centralized system, but most organizations are also applying the decentralization system, because the central system may be far remote from the local areas, and so they may not understand the local. But of course, each type of administration has its own advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so we are saying that there are challenges with the central system where the local needs might not be actually be known by the central administration, and therefore there's a need to give power and responsibility to the local people to actually see the local need. The reason is that if you look at the government system in Ghana, the regions in Ghana have different level of development. Asante region, Greater Accra region, and all other regions have different level of development. And even within the regions, the various districts may have different development needs. So if we just administrate from the local central government and decide to now give the same thing to everybody, some other district may not need what is going on. So that was the reason why. And so when we centralize the governance system, some districts will never be developed. They may not get their share of the national cake. So the need for this assembly system or the decentralization system. So we are saying that decentralization system is a response to the challenges of the centralized system. Decentralization in governance or in government has been seen as a solution to the problem, like economic decline. Some districts declined in terms of economic development, government inability to fund services, and their general decline in performance of overloaded services. You see, so if everything is centralized at the national government, the central government, they will be overloaded with a lot of services that have to provide. And also some districts will be actually be deprived of developmental this. That was the issue. That was the problem before decentralization came in to solve that problem of the centralized governance. Right. So decentralization is the process by which the activities of the organization, and in this case, the various national organization or government organizations, particularly those regarding planning and decision making, are distributed or delegated away from the away from the central authoritative location or group. So, of course, that is decentralization. It's an activities where particularly planning, decision making, and then development are delegated away from the central or authoritative location. Thus, it is the process of redistributing functions, powers, people, or things away from the central location or authority. In governance or in government, decentralization refers to transfer of power. So please take note of the definition you will give to decentralization. That in government, decentralization refers to the transfer of power, responsibility, functions, and resources from the central government to the local government or to the local people through the local authority. Okay, so through the central local governance system, the power to function, power to actually develop the local areas, power to administer governance is delegated to the people at the local area. They are given the responsibilities. Once you are given the power, you are also be given responsibilities, and you must also function in a way. Powers and functions are given, and then in order to, carry on your responsibility on your functions, resources are also transferred from the central government to the local people through the local government system. Okay, right. So that is a decentralization in government. So decentralization or decentralized governance refers to the restructuring or reorganization of authority, so that there is a system of responsibility between the institution of governance at the central, regional, and local levels according to the principles of subsidiary, thus increasing the overall quality and efficiency and effectiveness of the system of governance. So if you look at Ghana, the recent decentralization system is about, delegating power from the central government to the regional, to the district, so that there is a shared responsibility between these people, right? So that we will not get everything coming from there. If not for the district assembly, a teacher will have to always go to Accra. A police officer will have to always go to Accra, administrate everything. There won't be district, what they call courts, all district courts, district schools, district education service. All these things will have been centralized in Accra, and you can see how difficult it will be for everybody traveling all walks of the country to Accra for simple, what they call it. So administrative functions are then delegated from the central government, regional government, to the local government. See, so that is it. So it is it refers to the restructuring or reorganization of authority, so that there is a system of co-responsibility between the institution of governance at the central, the local, and the regional, and the local levels. right? Thus increasing the overall quality and effectiveness of the system of governance while increasing the authority and capacity of sub-national levels. So let's look at forms of decentralization in Ghana. Decentralization can take many forms, including political, administration, physical, and economic. So we have political decentralization, administration or administrative decentralization, then physical decentralization, and economic decentralization. So let us take them one by one. And please, for examination purposes, you should be able to, understand what these forms of decentralization in governance in Ghana are, right? So we have the political decentralization. And for political decentralization, it aims to give citizens or their elected representatives more power. You see, the political decentralization aims to give citizens or their elected representatives. And when we say their elected representatives, what are they? Who are they? The people of the local area will be given the power to elect their representative, right? So these citizens or their elected representatives are given the power. So you have the MPs who are elected, you have the assembly members, you have the unit committee, you have the so we start with the unit committee, we start with with election of the unit committee, the assembly members, then the MP, then the this chief executive. All these people are the representatives of the people in the local area. And so these people are given the power. It involves giving citizens more influence in the formulation and implementation of local implementation of laws and policies. So the representatives of the people in the local area or the people in the local area and all their representatives are given the power, okay, to formulate and implement laws and policies. This process is established by the institution of reforms that either delegate certain degree of decision-making autonomy to the local authority or grant citizens the right to elect lower level officials like local or regional representatives. So you see, if you even look at the regional coordinating council, it is a local coordinating council, local government areas that actually appoint what do you call it? Right. So what I'm saying is that when it comes to the local government, political decentralization, the citizens and their representatives are given the power to formulate and implement laws and policies. And so it's about the implementation of policies, laws, and things that has to do and giving the power to even elect, or political has to do with giving the people the right to elect their local, what do you call it, their district assembly members, as well as to elect even the presiding officer of their presiding member of the district, and then even the MP in the area. All this is a political decentralization. It is the people in the local area that are given the power to do this. Okay, then we have administrative decentralization. Administrative decentralization involves the local people, or it gives the local people administrative power. So we see the other one is it gives them the political or the power to elect. But this one, it gives them administrative power to make decisions without recourse to the central government. If you go to the disassembly, the various assembly members in the disassembly in the local area form the disassembly. Then they elect their presiding member, who is the chair of the district, and then the political appointee. Even the political appointee is supposed to actually see to, and even the political appointee, the assembly is given the power to name about 4 or 3 people, and the government will appoint one for them. So the person being appointed as this chief executive is a nominee from the district. Okay, so the government does not even impose, even though that is a political appointment, they don't impose it on them. And if the government appoint, the rest assembly members have to endorse before that person can be confirmed. That's why you can see that sometimes some of the days assembly government will appoint, but the assembly members will vote against the person. It is the choice of the members who will have to come to play in choosing this chief executive, right? So that is the political issue. Then we come to the administrative decentralization. This one involves giving the local people administrative power to make decisions. So once we have this assembly, the presiding officer, this chief executive, they actually take administrative decisions regarding the development of the area without recourse to the central government. Even though central government will give guidelines as to how, of course, once it is the government in power, his, what do you call it, his political aspirations or political messages will be translated in the policies that they want to implement, of course. So they will have to tell them, but the decision as to what's supposed to be done in the district is a decision by the local executive, local members of the assembly, which is the assembly members as well as the presiding member, and then the district and all other people who comes to form this assembly. So that is administrative power or administrative decentralization. There are 3 forms of administrative decentralization. Okay, so the administrative decentralization, there are 3 types. The first one is deconcentration. So take note of this question. It can come in objective, it can come in the theory. The administrative decentralization is a form of decentralization in Ghana, but there are 3 types, and these types are: 1, deconcentration. This is the weakest form of decentralization. We say it is weakest form because more or less the decisions, the powers to take decisions and decisions are not given 100% to the local government. So more or less the central government influences a lot of things. So this is the weakest form of decentralization. It shifts responsibility for decision making, finance, and implementation of certain public functions from the officials of the central government to those in existing districts, or if necessary, new ones under direct control of the central government. So the decision had been transferred from the central government to the district, but it is still under the control of the central government. So we are saying that this type of decentralization transfers or shifts responsibility for decision making, finance, implementation of certain public functions. So in this case, the functions are even limited under the deconcentration. The functions, they don't transfer all functions to this assembly. Okay, so we are saying that under that, decisions regarding finance and implementation of certain functions from the officials of the central government to those in the existing districts, if necessary, and new ones under direct control of the central government. So the power is still under the direct control of the district assembly. Then we have delegation. This form of administrative decentralization just passes down responsibility for decision making, finance, and implementation of certain public functions to semi-autonomous organizations, not wholly controlled by the central government, but ultimately accountable to it. So under this one, it's a delegation. When you have been delegated to do something, you are given the power and authority to make a decision regarding finance and implementation of certain functions. But once it is a delegation, you will still answerable to someone, right? So it is these functions, finance, implementation, and certain functions are given down or passed down to semi-autonomous organizations, not wholly controlled by the central government, but ultimately accountable for it. So it means that those institutions, government is still accountable for those institutions that pass down power regarding decision making, finance, and implementation to semi-autonomous. The government still will be responsible for it. Then we have the devolution. This one is this devolution transfer all responsibility for decision making, finance, and implementation of certain public functions to the sub-national level, such as the regional, local, or state government. See, so with devolution, it is a transfer. For example, if you go to Nigeria, where we have states, the federal states are given power. This is a devolution. Okay, if you come to Ghana, for example, we have the regional coordinating council and the legislative assembly. So some functions, some responsibility regarding decision making, finance, and implementation of certain public functions are just given to the various subnationals. So these subnationals will be either the regional coordinating council or local government. And the government, they actually transfer the power wholly. It's not like at the end of the day you have to go and be responsible to the government. There are some which are delegation. That one you have to be responsible. The government will be responsible, and you have to report back. And there are some where we have that. So you need to look at the difference between the two. The concentration here, the function is still under the control of the central government. Delegation, it is given, you are giving the power to you are semi-autonomous. The institutions that are performing that functions are semi-autonomous, but still have to be answerable to the central government. And then devolution, that one, the power is transferred completely. All responsibility to that particular base assembly or regional education. Then we have the fiscal decentralization. Fiscal decentralization here means decentralizing revenue raising and or expenditure of money to a local level of government without maintaining financial responsibility. So when it comes to fiscal, here we are not talking of fiscal in terms of like you see the person fiscal. This one is fiscal in terms of fiscal policies. Okay, so fiscal decentralizing here, the government, the local government actually transfer the power to generate or raise revenue in the local areas and also take expenditure system in the local level. Okay, you are given the power to generate certain revenue and expend or incur expenditure in the local level of governance while maintaining fiscal responsibility. Of course, you cannot just be given the power just to spend and raise money anyhow, but you should be responsible, right? So that is fiscal decentralization. It means decentralizing revenue generation, because so these assemblies are given the power to raise money from tolls, from market tolls and all of things, fees and things. The revenue sources for this assembly is part of the fiscal decentralization, where these assemblies are given the power to generate or raise revenue and also incur expenditure to the local level while maintaining fiscal discipline. Now, fiscal decentralization can be achieved through user fees, user participation through monetary or labor contribution, expansion of local property or sales tax, as well as intergovernmental transfers of central government tax revenue to local government through the Disassembly Common Fund. Okay, so the fiscal policy, fiscal decentralization, we are saying that can be achieved through user fees. And when we say user fees, we're talking of the various fees that these assemblies will generate through the use of some of their services, assets, and all that. Then user participation through monetary or labor contribution, expansion of local property. Once you want to expand local property, you may spend sales tax as well as the intergovernmental transfers of local government tax revenue to local of central government tax revenue to local government through transfer payments or grants, and then to authorization of municipal borrowing with national government loan guarantee. This assembly can also borrow. That is another fiscal decentralization. This assembly, if they need money for their developmental agenda, they can borrow, and then national government will guarantee the loan for them. That is also part of this assembly fiscal decentralization. The final one is the economic decentralization, and this is achieved through privatization of public-owned functions and businesses. Because if it has to do with economic issues, this assembly will have to be able to manage its asset and liability, and therefore realize that if this assembly has a property and it's not managed well by the citizen, and the assembly want to privatize that particular asset, they can be able to that one that will result in proper economic management of that particular asset. They are allowed to do so. So it is achieved through privatization of public owned functions and business. It is also achieved through the abolition of restrictions on business competing with government services. For example, postal services, school, garbage, all that. So government, this assembly can be allowed to do business, or is allowed to do business to generate fund. And in this case, we can restrict any other private organization in competing with the disassembly in terms of that particular provision of services. It means I want to economically help the disassembly to, generate money for themselves. So this is about the economic decentralization. This assembly will have the power to be able to, engage in any businesses that will help them generate money, okay, to be able to, finance their operations. And so if this assembly want to go into any private business, or want to privatize any of its assets, or want to enter into any business, and then also because of competition, we want this assembly to be on its feet in terms of doing the business. We can restrict any other person to actually compete with this assembly. This is the power, they have the power to do so. So when it comes to revenue, what do you call it? Refuse collection or refuse management and those things, this assembly can actually take that function, and any other person who wants to do such business can be restricted in doing so. That is under economic decentralization. So let us look at the reasons for and the decentralization. Why the government was not centralized as it used to be, but now the need came for the central government to actually release power to the local government to ensure development. What are the reasons? So decentralization, as discussed above, is a response to the problem of centralized system. The centralized system of governance is where power is at the head office of the government and its cabinet members, and they do everything through direct. So everybody who wants to now go to solve his problem will have to go to the central administration, which is the central Accra or whatever, right? So the following are some of the reasons of decentralizing decision making and other relevant powers for the central government to the local government. So these are some reasons. The first one is decentralization ensure closer link with the people, and this is really true, because this is the problem of the central government, is that if you the central government or the central administration will be far remote from the local government, but once we from the local people, from the local citizens, but once we decentralize, the governors become closer, people become closer to the. So we said decentralization ensure closer link with the people, so that governance is now closer to the people. So does decentralization brings government closer to the people, making government for the people, by the people. Remember, we are talking of democracy, government for the people and by the people. So if you want to ensure democracy, then definitely decentralization becomes the option, because the central government will be far remote from the local people. And so to bring the government closer to the people, they need to bring the decentralization system. So that decentralization brings government closer to the people, making government for the people, by the people. This increase effectiveness of government policies at the local level. Then decentralization also ensure local participation in government decision making and democracy. Thus, there is the tendency of the people to get involved in the election process directly by electing their representatives and their chief executives. Imagine if we were all supposed to go to Accra to elect the minister, or we are all supposed to go to Accra to elect the president. Can you imagine how it will be? So the Legislative Assembly, which starts from the unit committee to the assembly members, to the district chief executive election and the MP election, all these things is possible for the people. You can only walk just few distance and you can involve in election activities without traveling to any other place. It's because of this assembly system. So it ensures local participation in government decision making. Once you can go to the polling station at the local level to now cast a vote to even select president, to go to the local level to elect the MP, to go to a local level to elect your, what do you call it, your assemblyman, to elect your unit committee member. All these things brings the government closer to the people, right? So decentralization also improves efficiency and better services, because this assembly is closer to the people. They will understand the local dynamics and they'll be able to serve the local people better and efficient than the central government. Thus, decentralization helps heighten accountability and transparency. This will lead to higher efficiency in service delivery, resulting in better services at the local level. Okay, so that is it. And so this assembly also improves revenue mobilization, of course. If the local government can then mobilize revenue to solve its problem, unlike, because whatever the central government will bring might not be enough. Okay, what they bring through the central transfer, which is the either grants or this assembly common fund, it's always not enough. So the local level can actually think that this assembly and this is chief executive with its assembly members and this can come out with innovative way of generating enough funds to actually see to their development. So you can see some districts are better and richer than other districts, especially if you go to KMA, CMA, and this assembly with heavy markets and having road tolls and distance, they are always able to generate enough fund, right? So that is it. Then also this assembly also leads to reduction in costs to the central government. Imagine if the central government should administer everything by itself, people traveling from Accra to whichever local areas to make announcement and business. It will have been very difficult. So this assembly cuts down the cost of central government, because the functions that the central government has to come to do in the local areas will be done by the local government. It increases increase in internally generated fund of the local government will lead to reduction in intergovernmental transfer and grant to the local government. Of course, if not for the district assembly, the local government, that will see to the generation of internal generated fund. Everything will have to come from the central government, and that will have been a serious cost to the national central government. So we are saying that this assembly, because they're able to generate internal generated fund to support the activities, what will be transferred from the central government might be reduced, and therefore reduces the cost of the central government. You see, now there's a question that people do ask. People are actually raising the idea that if this assembly supposed to be given the power to administrate, then why, and they are giving political decentralization, then why does government appoint this chief executive? So others are advocating that the district chief executive this election supposed to be done by the local people, so that we know that this person is not partisan. Because if NDC comes to power and then they appoint this chief executive, then that person is going to actually work to meet the needs or whatever dreams and purposes of the government in power. Therefore, we should elect the chief executives. But this is a debate that is going on. But because of this, the district is given the power to name about 5 or so, 6 or so people to the president, and then out of them, depending on the qualification of whatever, the president appoint one. And then when it comes to the local assembly, the assembly members must vote, and here it is simple majority. Okay, if the person, I think it's supposed to be 2/3 or so, 2/3. So if the person doesn't, if it's not just simple majority, the person must have 2/3 before it can be confirmed. So sometimes government appoints the people, and when it comes to these assemblies, the assembly members don't like the person, and it brings a lot of banter, right? So that is an issue. We all have to think of whether appointing them or electing them is better for us. Now let's look at the barriers to this assembly. Of course, once it has this reason, which are the advantages for the decentralization, it will have disadvantages, which are the barriers. Some of the factors that affect decentralization system in Ghana are as follows: weak local administration, weak local administrative or technical capacity may result in inefficiencies or ineffective sources. Of course, for decentralized administration, the people, if you lack the technical know-how of the people who will be appointed to take powers in the district assembly, definitely it will lead to inefficiencies in the service. If you don't get qualified people, and most of the time the local areas may not have the qualified people to actually take up the mantle. So you have just somebody who has just finished Form 4 or who have just finished SS, but because of its political something, you be appointed to become DC. You see, and when that happens, you can see that the efficiency in providing the services to the various districts will be affected. So we're looking at lack of local administrative or technical capacity. Okay, so the government must appoint people with technical capacity to be able to function. But normally, because of political, that is why now the idea is up that we should rather elect them, because when people are electing, they will look at the qualification of the person. But this is because the person was involved in campaigning and all that, they think that he has done enough for the party, they will just appoint him without any technical know-how. Then we have inadequate financial resources may be made available to perform new local responsibilities, especially in the startup phase where they are most needed. So some of these assemblies may be new, and others may be hinterland. They may not have the enough resources. If you take, for example, Kumasi, now KMA, that is Kumasi Municipal Assembly, and then let's say, Jukwa area. Okay, sometimes you can see that some district assemblies are very rich. They have markets, they have roads, they have certain facilities from which they can generate enough funds, but other districts may be lacking. So inadequate financial resources may be made, which may be made available to perform new functions. So, and apart from the district assembly common fund, and you see, this assembly common fund is also distributed to the various districts based on the numbers. So other districts have numbers, and so they will get more of the this assembly common fund than others. And the most of the source of funds for the disassembly development is the internally generated fund. So if you don't have areas where you can generate funds, then you may be having financial inadequacy. Then danger of complexity of national policy coordination. Sometimes some of the national policies may be very complex, and you may not have the technical people in the local assembly to be able to coordinate those policies. You may have to get people from the central government to come and do that. But because power has been delegated to the district assembly, they have to be able to do this. And they may not have the know-how and technical ability to understand these complex policies of the government. And so it might not be done well. Inequitable distribution of services may also result, of course. The sizes, this assembly common fund, like I said, is distributed based on the sizes or the number of people. So we have the metropolitan assembly, we have the municipal, we have the district. So a metropolitan will get more than a district. Municipal will get more than a district. In that case, you can see that some districts may have problem with inadequate fund because they may not have enough sources to generate internally generated fund. Others may not have, and the money that is coming from the central government to is based on the numbers. So it's always may not be equitable. So the equitable distribution of resources is the problem. Okay. Yes, because some districts may be deprived than others. District where you have a lot of buildings, even getting property rate is high, but other districts, the buildings they are attached and those things. So how do you then even get the property rate to generate funds? So those are the issues. Then higher enforcement costs and conflict for resource if there is no higher level of authority. Okay, so enforcement, sometimes if you have you see, at the district assembly, we have the police, we have the military, you have all the central MDA's offices there. So if there are not enough resources, you cannot actually enforce certain enforcement. Enforcement cost is a problem. Sometimes making sure that there is peace and order in the area, you need money to do that. If you have resource, you don't have enough resource to enforce some of the laws and regulations in the district may be a problem. So higher enforcement costs and conflict for resources if there is no higher level of authority. Then we have high cost of decentralization. Because decentralization also may involve higher costs. Then possibility that corrupt local elites can capture regional or local power centers. Of course, in the decentralization, in the area, local area, we have some few people who may have the money and then we capture the power and then be doing using the power anyhow. So that is some of the problems regarding the decentralization. Features of local government in Ghana. This is the aspect you have to look at carefully. So how do we consider? What are the components of the local government in Ghana? In accordance with Article in accordance with the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, Article 240, that is the local government system in Ghana, shall have the following features. Parliament shall enact appropriate laws to ensure that functions, powers, responsibility, and resources are at all times transferred from the central government to local government units in a coordinated manner. Remember, we have actually talked about this article. in the Constitution, Article 247, actually is that article or the section that actually talks about local government system in Ghana. So it gives the power to the Parliament to actually enact appropriate laws to ensure the functions, powers, responsibility, and resources are at all times transferred from the central government to the local government in a coordinated manner. And so that is why the Local Government Act 1993 at 642 so was propagated to actually enact the put down measures to ensure that the local government powers, functions, responsibility, resources can be transferred from the local government to from the central government to local government. So Parliament shall by law provide the taking of such measures as are necessary to ensure the capacity of local government authorities to plan, initiate, coordinate, manage, and execute policies in respect of all matters affecting the people within their areas. These are the provisions in Article 240. So Article 240A, that says that the Parliament shall enact appropriate laws to ensure that these power functions, responsibility, and resources. And then you go ahead. B says that the Parliament shall by law provide for the making of such measures. Because we are saying that it has to ensure that the power, functions, responsibility, resources are at all times transferred to the local, from the central government to local government in a coordinated manner. So they can do that by providing measures or by taking measures as necessary to ensure the capacity of the local government authorities to plan, initiate, and coordinate, manage, and execute policies in respect of all matters affecting the people within the local areas, with a view to ultimately achieving the localization of these activities. So whatever activities the government are taking at the central government, the Parliament are given the power to provide, to make laws that will ensure that the local government will be empowered. The local government representative will be empowered to be able to plan and make initiative, manage, and execute these activities, all in the aim of achieving localization of those activities. Then there shall be established for each local government unit a sound financial base with adequate and reliable source of revenue. That is why the law makes it clear that at a local government act ensure that 5% of the total tax revenue are transferred to the Legislative Assembly Common Fund, and this is made available to the various district assemblies to be able to take their developmental project. They are also given the power to generate funds internally through the licenses, through the fees, and all that, fines and all that they have. As far as practicable, the persons in the service of local government shall be subject to the effective control of the local authority. So people who are in the local government will be subject to the control of the local authority. And remember, there's the Act, the Local Government Act has actually spelled out the functions of the members in the local government, and so they have to comply with that to ensure the accountability of local government authorities. People in particular local government areas shall, as far as practicable, be afforded the opportunity to participate effectively in their governance. So the people in the local area, according to the Constitution, should be given the power or authority to participate in the activities of the local government. They should be given the opportunity to participate in the activities of the local government effectively. These are provisions of 1992 Constitution, right? Article 240, right, from A to E, right? So now look at the functions of local government, and some of these things are many. You have to read them because we cannot be talking Local government shall exercise political and administrative authority in the district, provide guidance, give direction to all, give direction to and supervise the other administrative authorities within the district. So other administrative authority within the district will be at all the district heads of the education. All the ministries have their unit at the district. And so the district assembly will have to coordinate activities of all the ministries in the district, right? So we are saying that the local government shall exercise political and administrative authority in the district. So, and they will provide guidance, give direction, and supervise the other administrative within the district. For instance, for this purpose, the local government shall perform deliberative, legislative, and executive functions, right? So we have the legislative functions, the executive functions, and all these things. The judiciary, the military, all the ministries will have their offices in the district assembly, and so the district assembly will have to ensure that they provide guidance, give direction, and supervise all these administrative units in order to ensure that the local government perform their deliberative, legislative, and executive function. In accordance with Section 10, Section 3 of the Local Government Act 2013, Act 462, these functions are summarized as follows. So a lot of them here. Local government shall ensure the overall development of the district. Of course, what will you do as a district chief executive and the district assembly members who form the district assembly? Yours is to ensure the overall development of the district, prepare and submit development plan and budget for approval and implementation. You cannot, spend any money from government without coming out with a plan, budget, and how we intend to implement what is in the budget. So they are supposed to prepare and submit development plan in terms of budget for approval and implementation, mobilize revenue for development of the district. Yes, it is your duty as a district assembly to actually ensure and see to mobilization of revenue for the development of the district, ensure and promote effective, productive activity and social development, and remove any obstacles to initiative and development. You see, so that's why if you don't get a district chief executive who is well educated and business inclined, somebody just going to follow political ideology and then listens, you will not develop, because this assembly can actually is given the autonomy to enter into business, raise revenue. Because remember, we have the various forms of administration, the various form of decentralization. So if you have somebody who has that know-how, he will be able to ensure and promote productive activity. If you sit down, you do not come out with something that will help the district to generate funds, they will not develop. So the act actually give the power to that unit, this assembly, the chief executive and its members, to ensure and promote effective activity, productive activity and social development, and remove any obstacles to initiatives and development. You have to be able to undertake very good initiative which will lead to the development of the district. They have to maintain maintenance of security and public safety in the district. Yes, it's also the duty of the district assembly to ensure maintenance of security and safety in the district. That's why the police command, the military, and all other forces that are in the district are under the direction of the district chief executive. So they have a committee that are responsible for ensuring peace and security in the district, and that comes under the function of the district assembly. Also, they have to ensure ready access to courts and public tribunals for the promotion of justice. So that's why we have the district courts, we have the district magistrate and all that. Sometimes we have tribunal, district tribunal and all that to ensure that issues of legal justice or promotion of justice is done. They have to ensure the development of basic infrastructure in the district. Talk of schools, hospitals, social amenities like borehole, water, and all that. Okay, electricity. These are all the functions of this assembly. So if you don't have, and this is a chief, this is who is innovative and just primitive, only think of political party issues, you will not develop the district. That's why I actually support the issue of re-electing the district chief executives, so that you will not be politically committed to whoever appoints him. They have to establish, improve, and the establishment, improvement, and management of human settlements and the environment in the district. So if you come to town and development planning, it is the district assembly who has to ensure that even areas for settlement are developed before human settles there. If you go elsewhere in the country, before people begin to build in certain areas, the district assembly will have lay pipe, electricity, water, some social amenities will have gone there, and then the settlement area will be demarcated. Some place will be demarcated for schools, social gatherings, and this before people settle. So, issue of access, road access to the various houses and distance. If you go to some towns, you just walk and you enter somebody's room because there's no plan. It's a disassembly who has to do that, and it is their function to ensure that there is establishment, improvement, and management of human settlement and the environment in the district. You see, and also environment. When we talk of environment, you understand. When you go to some district, when you go to certain towns, very filthy, very filthy. I mean, scent and those things. It's the disassembly's duty to ensure that you get people to clean the areas, gutters are, choke gutters are removed, everything, and so promote human health. That what do you see in our district and in our towns? It is the function of the local government to also levy and collect all taxes, rate, duties, and fees to the appropriate fund. So that's why you have tax force in the various district assemblies. They are appointed to enforce collection of taxes in the market, in the lorry stations, and other places. They have the power because they have been given the mandate to do so. So it is their function. If you are asked to pay your hotel, you are asked to pay your whatever by the disassembly, know that is their function, right? Now let's look at the structure of the local government in Ghana. The local government system in Ghana is characterized by 4 tiers. 4 tiers means that the layers are 4. You have we have 4 tiers. It means that you have the what do you call it? The regional administration. You come down to the municipal, down to the unit level. So the layers are 4, right? So the local government system in Ghana is characterized by 4 tier structures which operate at the regional level, because we have the regional coordinating council. Then we have district and sub-district levels. It consists of first tier, which is the regional coordinating council. I've said that one already. And the second tier is the metropolitan or municipal or district assembly. And the third tier is the urban council or the zonal council or the area council. And the fourth one is the unit committee level, right? So we have the regional coordinating council, the municipal districts, and municipal, metropolitan, and district. That one is one layer. And then we have the town, urban, or zonal councils. And then we have the unit committee. So the structure on the table here, look at it carefully. You can be asked to in a chart, in a form of table or chart, describe the this assembly structure in Ghana. So you should be able to use the chart to illustrate. So the regional coordinating council, and then under the regional coordinating council, you can have the municipal, metropolitan, municipal, and this assembly. These are one layer. Okay, so it doesn't mean that this as the metropolitan, or it doesn't mean that the municipal is under metropolitan, or this assembly is under municipal, whatever. They are under one area. Okay. Then we have the sub unit, which is the sub metropolitan district. So under that one, we can have town council, zonal council, or urban council. And then we come to the unit committee. So the sub metro, for the sub metro, you know, some of the metros are big, so we can have sub metros. So the sub metros are under the sub metro, we can also have town councils under the sub metros. If you go to Kumasi like this, we have KMA sub metros. So the sub metros are district councils. Okay, and under them we can have the zonal council. But if you come to municipal, we have zonal councils, and then you come to the district, we have the urban councils. So that is the structure. The zonal sub metro and then zonal council is one layer. So the first one is the regional coordinating council, followed by the municipal, the metropolitan municipal and this assembly MDAs, and then we have the either sub metros or the town councils, and then the zonal council. So this is the sub metros. So the sub metros can be either town councils, zonal councils, or the urban council, and the unit committee. So the explanation I've been giving here, regional coordinating council is the apex organization on the local government structure in Ghana. It performs administrative and coordinating functions such as monitoring and evaluating the performance of the various district assemblies, monitoring the budget performance and the use of all monies allocated to the district assemblies, and coordinating district development plans and programs established in each of the 10 regions in Ghana. Of course, now it is 16. Those days when we wrote the book, it was 10. So now it is 16 regions in Ghana. The Regional Coordinating Council consists of the regional minister, who is the chairman, and his deputies, then the presiding member of the district assemblies, presiding members of this assembly, and then district chief executives, right? It also consists of 2 chiefs from the regional house of chiefs and the head of the decentralized ministries within without voting right. So remember, look at the membership of the regional coordinating council. We said the regional coordinating council is made up of the regional minister, who is a political appointee. That one is a political appointee, regional minister, and his deputies. So if he has one deputy, for example, now we have the one deputy minister, one regional deputy minister. So the membership is the minister himself, the deputy, then the presiding members of the district. So if you have about 10 districts in the region, the various presiding members are part of the regional coordinating council. Okay, and then the district chief executives. So the various district chief executives too are members of the regional coordinating council. And then we have 2 members from the regional house of chiefs, which are also 2 members, and then the head of the decentralized ministries without voting right. So then we come to the district assembly, and this assembly here could be municipal, metropolitan. It can be metropolitan, municipal, and district. And you know the difference between them. What makes up the difference between the metropolitan, the municipal, and the district assemblies? So this assembly is a body corporate. Note that particular function we are talking about. It's a body corporate. When we say something or somebody is a body, or a group or an institution is a body corporate, it means that particular institution can, contract in his name, can actually contract in his name and can sue and be sued, can conduct business in his name. Okay. So it is considered as a legal entity. A legal entity is an entity that can contract in its own name. So the functions, the activities of the body is different from the individuals in it. That is what the law says. So this assembly is a body corporate with perpetual succession and a common seal, and may sue and be sued in its own name. That's what I just said. It has the power for the discharge of any of its function to acquire and hold movable or immovable property, to dispose of such property, and to enter into any contract or other transaction. It is next after the regional coordinating council, with empowerment to be the pivot of local governance. Hope you are enjoying the lesson. Right? So this assembly will be discussed. We're going to note what we have said here. It is a legal entity, or it's a body corporate, and therefore has a perpetual succession. It means that if you are appointed this chief executive today, your government comes to power, and you are appointed. When your government goes, definitely when you are out of power, somebody will be appointed, and so that this assembly is going to continue to be there forever. Assembly members can come and go. The chief executives can come and go. Coordinating directors can come and go. But the institution, this assembly, will always be there forever. They have the power to acquire any asset on their own, whether it's a movable property or immovable. They can dispose of those assets as and when they need be, and they can enter into any contract to contract loan or to do this all in the interest of developing the local area. They are next to the local government, the regional coordinating council, right? So take note of that description. Then we have the sub-metro as the next unit, the sub-metro. So the sub-metro could be, that is the third tier. So the sub-district structure are subordinate bodies of the district assemblies. And remember that this assembly, under the district assembly level, we have the metropolis, we have the municipal and district assembly. So under each of them, we can have the sub district or sub metros, either sub district or sub metros. So we are saying that this sub district structure are subordinate bodies of the district assemblies. They are made up of the sub-metropolitan district assembly councils and urban or town or zonal councils. The councils are to enumerate and keep records of all taxable persons and properties in the urban area, zonal or town. They are also to recommend to the assembly the meaning of all districts in there. So when it comes to the sub-metro, they are supposed to actually ensure that each district, each street are named, properties that are there are identified, everything, that those who are eligible to pay taxes. And so then if the areas are not cleaned, that's why sometimes we have the town council. Town council, those days, there are people who go around to check whether our houses are clean. If your houses are not clean, you see, if your house are not clean, they see feces and this, and you can be summoned to the assembly and you'll be fined. All those things. So if they are supposed to check that the policies of the assemblies are being maintained in the various zonal, town, or urban council, urban areas. They are also responsible for assessing any authorized person by the district assembly to collect revenue, preventing and controlling fire outbreaks, and preparing annual budget of revenue and recurrent, as well as development budget of the urban or town council for the approval of the assembly. So they are supposed to administer the functions of the various assembly in the local areas, right? Then we have the unit committee. At the bottom of the local government structure is the unit committees. It is established in a settlement with the population of between 500 to 1,000. So those are local committees. They are responsible to administer these assemblies or policies in the various communities, right? So a community where you have about 500 to 2,000 people in that area, we are supposed to have a local committee. Okay, so we have 5,000 people in the rural areas, and when we have 1,500 for the urban area. So if you have a place where we have about 1,500 people living there, that you have the urban area, but the unit committee is supposed to be towns that are having population of between 500 to 1,000. Their main responsibility rests on the enforcement and mobilization issues since they are closer to the people. A unit committee is made up of not more than 15 persons. 10 of the members are elected from the residents in the units, and 5 other non-resident persons in the unit nominated by the district chief executive, acting on behalf of the president. And the unit committees are required to supervise the staff of the district assemblies, assist the assembly in revenue collection, organize communal labor and voluntary work, educate the members in their rights, privileges, and responsibilities, and also monitor the implementation of development projects. They are also to assist in enumerating and keeping records of all taxable persons and properties, made proposal to the assembly regarding levying and collection of taxes, and provide focal point for discussion of local matters with recommendation to the assembly. So the unit committee, we have 10 people being elected and 5 people being appointed by this is chief executive, maybe from the party in power, and then they form the unit committee. Their responsibility is to ensure that the community have information. Any policies that the district assembly is undertaking is now brought. See, so if you look at the assembly members are in the urban or these areas, and they supposed to, if you have a membership of 1,005 and above, you form the assembly, and then we have 5,000 to be the unit committee, and then whatever the assembly member goes to discuss at the assembly, it brings it to the local committee, sit down with the local committee people, and see how the local committee will help to implement the policies of the assembly. So you have to go through carefully and then try to understand issues there. So we have this assembly common fund, and for this assembly common fund we have talked about it. So this assembly is a body corporate, which we have said already, and with perpetual succession and a common zeal, and may issue and be sealed in its own name. It has the power for the discharge of any of its functions, to acquire and hold movable or unmovable property, to dispose of such property, and to enter into any contract of or other transaction. So this is a legal entity. This assembly is a legal entity, and any legal entity has the power to contract in its own name and has its seal, and therefore has the power to seal and be sued in its own name. Once it has legal entity, it's a legal entity or a corporate body corporate, it can actually acquire property on its own and then can dispose of this property at any time he wants, okay, and can enter into any contracts. This is a power given to this assembly. Therefore, functions of this assembly, we have talked about the functions of this assembly already. You can just go through that. Now let's look at the composition of this assembly. Now, in accordance with Article 242, that is 242 of the 1992 Constitution, this assembly shall consist of one, the district chief executive, and he is an appointee of the government. This is where people are advocating that it's supposed to be elected, right? Because if you look at the powers given to this chief executive, if you don't get the right person, the district will not develop, will not see, and the government comes to power for 4 terms, and if they are given another chance, so for 8 years that the government will be in power, and if the person is given that person for 8 years, if you don't have any initiative, you'll be there and the district will not develop. For example, Cape Coast municipal or metropolitan, you can see what has happened. The person was there, don't know what he was doing. Anyway, you are not here, so you wouldn't know. So, apart from this chief executive, we have one person from each electoral area within the district elected by the universal adult suffrage in accordance with the regulations made for the purpose by the Electoral Commission. So, we are talking of the election of the assembly members. So, apart from this chief executive, we have one person representing the various electoral areas within the district. And it depends on the number of electoral areas within the district. Every electoral area, we are supposed to appoint an assemblyman in that electoral area to represent them, the electoral area in the assembly. So assembly members are appointed through the regulations made for the purpose of that by the Electoral Commission. The members of the parliament from the constituency that fall within the area of authority of the district assembly, except that members or those members shall not have the voting right. So the district assembly also, apart from assembly members, also include the parliamentarians in the district. So if you have 3 parliamentarians in the district, they are part of this assembly. If you have 2, they are part of the district assembly. If it's 1, depending on the number of people, MPs in the area, they are part of the district assembly, but they do not have voting right. Take note. When it comes to voting to, let's say, confirm this chief executive or voting to undertake any major decision, the MPs are not having voting right, but they are members of the district assembly. Any other person not exceeding 30%, any other person not exceeding 30% of the total membership of the assembly appointed by the president in consultation with additional authorities, with the traditional authorities and any other interested groups in the district. Apart from the assembly members, we also have the appointed assembly members. Appointed assembly members, those ones, they will form not less than 30% of the total assembly members in the district, right? So we have elected assembly members and appointed assembly members in the district assembly. Take note of that. So the duties of the members of the district assembly, whether you are appointed or you are elected, members of the district assembly in accordance with the Local Government Act 1993 shall, as appropriate, actively participate in the work of the subcommittees of the executive committee. So in the district assembly, we have the subcommittees. So as every assembly member may have to be part of the subcommittees in the assembly. We have the committee for finance, committee for development, committee for planning, and all those committees, the members must participate in the work of the committees. They have to bring to bear on a discussion in the assembly the benefit of the members. They will bring to bear on the discussion in the assembly the benefit of the members share profession, experience, or specialized knowledge. So what we are saying is that every assembly member must bring to bear whatever specialization, profession, or experiences they have. That's why if you are appointing assembly members, you don't appoint anybody. Sometimes some of the local areas appoint people who are popular. They don't have any knowledge because they are popular. They appoint them because the person can campaign or can give Tom Toffee and so can give the citizens ourselves are not being fair to ourselves. You see people who are knowledgeable who do not anyway. It's about educational level too, because the local people may not have knowledge in the way the assembly work. They will just appoint anybody. Just recently, my hometown, Yamansa, one guy who is a driver, because he's an NDC person, and now NDC time this time NDC is popular. Somebody who was there, though he is more or less affiliated, assembly members supposed not to be partisan. They are appointed or they are elected non-partisan basis, but they themselves at the end of the day align themselves with politics, and so even though they are not supposed to be appointed on political lines, but at the end of the day that's what happened. So you can see that this guy, very, very educated, he has gotten masters, he is working, and this guy can contribute better at the assembly. This driver, he just finished JHS. JHS, I don't know whether he finished because he's popular and this he paid money. And now that nothing is going on. I don't know what that guy can say at the assembly. Okay, so the members must bring to bear on discussions in the assembly the benefit of the members regarding their profession. The person must be professional, experiences they have, special knowledge they have. They should bring it back on the discussion on the assembly. But when you have people who don't know anything, what would they do? Then they must maintain frequent liaison with organized, productive economic groupings and any other person in the district, and take part in communal and development activities in the district. So as an assembly member, you must be a liaison between your electoral area and the people who can bring development to the area, to your country. Some have connections. As some of the assembly members have connections, they can connect to people in the other country to come and bring, apart from what the district can give to the local areas. You can connect people as an assembly member with your experience and as with your specialized knowledge you have. Connect, liaison between organizations for productive economic groupings and then any other person in the district, and take part in the communal and development activities in the district. Some of the assembly members, sometimes when we are taking, even they will not be there, you want to see him, you will not get, because of course this time is going to be better because now the President Muhammad has promised to pay them something. Those days when they were not paid, the person is doing his work. You want to look for him, you will not get him. Meanwhile, they are taking honorable to themselves and then they don't do anything. You see, because of course it's not their fault because they don't pay anything, and maybe the certain allowances they pay them at the assembly, and they have to work. So if you want to undertake, they're supposed to take active part in communal and developmental activities in the district. Okay, so these are functions. Now that we know the functions that they're supposed to do, we can actually insist that our assembly members perform those functions. Present the views, opinions, and proposals of the district assembly. So in your local area, you are supposed to, as an assemblyman, present the views, opinions, and proposals of the district. And if you are a district chief executive, you are supposed to present the views, opinions, and proposals of the district assembly at the regional coordinating council. Okay, so these are the functions of this assembly. They have to draw attention in general debates to national policies which are relevant to the subject under discussion. So if the national policy comes forward, like for example, anything that the government wants to undertake to ensure that the nation goes on, it is the duty of the assembly members to ensure that these policies have been understood, explained to the various assembly members in the local area. Now we have the functions of a presiding member. In accordance with Article 244 of the Constitution, the presiding member of this assembly shall be elected by the assembly from among its members. Okay, the district chief executive or a member of parliament is not qualified to be elected as the presiding member. So the presiding member should be among the members of the assembly. Okay, and is supposed to be elected among the assembly members. When somebody is a chief executive, he cannot be elected as a presiding member. Neither can MP, because once you're an MP, how can you then become presiding member again? So chief executives and members of parliament, even though they are members of the assembly, they cannot be elected as presiding members. So presiding members are supposed to be part of the assembly members. A presiding member shall be elected by at least 2/3 majority to the total number of members of the assembly. So you see, just like the district chief executive, the presiding member must be elected by the 2/3. 2/3 means that if they are 30, 20 of them should vote for the person. If less than 20 votes, he hasn't gotten the minimum to become elected presiding member. That's why you see, apart from the chief executive, who the government will appoint, and then they will have problems. Sometimes the presiding officer members too becomes a tackle if you don't have a favorite in the distance, and especially MPP, NDC issue. Then you not get 2/3, and sometimes that also have to delay for some time. All of these things delay the development of the district. So the presiding member shall hold office for a term of 2 years and is eligible for re-election. The presiding member shall convene and preside over meetings of the assembly and perform any other functions prescribed by the law. So once you are elected as a presiding member, you are going to actually be the chairman for all the meetings held by the assembly. And you may also perform any other function. So then this is chief executive. So please, you have to read more on these things. We have the functions of the district chief executive. That's why I'm saying that if you don't elect somebody who is well educated and has experiences, has ability to connect people to see to the development of the district, and you have somebody who will just come and then follow party lines to the neglect of the people, you will not develop, right? So let us vote our. So the district chief executive shall be the chairman of the executive committee of the district assembly, and then the district chief, he shall preside at the meetings of the executive committee. Remember that we are talking of the executive committee. When it comes to the executive committee, it is the district chief executive who is the chairperson. Okay, so we said district chief executive. The district chief executive for each district shall be appointed by the president with the prior approval of not less than 2/3 majority of the members of the district assembly. So if the district is given the chance to nominate people for government to appoint, they nominate about 5. It depends, I don't know, they have a number. You have to check about 5 of them, and out of them, government appoints 1, depending on sometimes they just look at the political activists, and then sometimes the people that the government favor or the district, the party favor, right? But when the government appoints, the members of the assembly must endorse by 2/3 majority. So sometimes they come, and if the members do not like the person, they will go for election, they will not get, they will appeal and those things. It happened. Especially this normally happens when there's change of government. That's what happened, because the sharp division between MPP and DC brings about those issues. Then we have the functions of the district chief executive, saying that district chief executive shall be the chairman of the executive committee of the district assembly. The district chief executive shall preside at the meeting of the executive committee of the district assembly, And in the absence of the district chief executive, a member of the executive committee elected by the members present from among themselves shall preside. So at all times, it's the district chief executive who is supposed to be the chairman of the executive committee. But if at a meeting conveyed, the district chief executive is not available, then the members at present can then elect any of them to become the chairman for that particular meeting. And this executive, chief executive will be responsible for day-to-day performance of the executive and administrative functions of the assembly. You are the political heads, and you are responsible for ensuring that the executive committee and administrative functions of the district is always performed. You have to be responsible for supervision of the district assembly. So it is the district who is responsible for supervision. So if we are saying that all the administrative heads, all the administrative units in the district, it is the district chief executive that has to give guidance and direction, okay, and ensure that all these administrative heads of the various ministries are performing. District chief executive shall be the chief representative of the central government in the district. Of course, he is appointed by the central government, and so he is the chief representative of the central government. Then we have the executive committee, who is chaired by the district chief executive. The district chief executive or the executive committee shall consist of not more than 1/3 of the total number of the members of the assembly elected by the members from among themselves. So if we have 1/3, means that if we have 30 members of the assembly, at least 1/3 supposed to be 10. So the executive committee of the district assembly shall perform the executive and coordinating function of the assembly. An executive committee shall one, develop and execute approved plans of the units, area and towns and sub-metropolitan districts within the area of authority of the district assembly. And so they coordinate plans and programs of the subcommittees and submit these as comprehensive plans of action to the district assembly. And then they oversee the administration of the district in collaboration with the office of the district chief executive, and then implement solutions of the district assembly. So we have the district assembly common fund. We have talked about this fund already. So the district assembly common fund is established by the District Assembly Common Fund Act. District Assembly Common Fund Act under Article 242 of the 1992 Constitution, right? The purpose of setting this fund is to provide. Remember that we have talked about this under the funds and the various other funds created. So the purpose of this Assembly Common Fund is to provide resources to support the developmental agenda or the developmental activities of the local government. It is a fund created out of the consolidated fund to channel resources from the central government to the local government for development. So it is a fund that is created purposely to provide resources to support the developmental activities of the local government. And so it is a fund created from the local, the consolidated fund. It's part of the other funds that are created from the consolidated fund for other purposes. So it is created from the consolidated fund to channel resources from the central government to the local government. The District Assembly Common Fund is a pool of resources created under Section 252 of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana. It is a minimum of 5% of the national revenue set aside to provide, set aside to be shared among district assemblies in Ghana with a formula approved by the Parliament. So the fund, the District Assembly Common Fund, we have already looked at the fund itself and the source of funds to it. We said the major source of funds to the this assembly common fund is 5% of the total revenue, tax revenue generated for the period, for the year. So at any point in time, the total of the tax revenue generated, 5% of it is now put into this assembly common fund to be shared among the various assemblies with a formula approved by the parliament. Even the distribution or the sharing of the common fund must be given or must be brought to parliament by the administrator of the disassembly common fund, and the parliament must approve of the formula for sharing, right? It is a development fund which enables the use of the nation's wealth throughout the Ghana to the benefit of all citizens, of course. So the purpose of the fund is to ensure equitable distribution of national resources for the development of every part of Ghana. That's why we call it this assembly common fund. So once we have divided the country into the various districts, we share the funds, the revenue generated for the government equitable to the development of all part of Ghana, right? So the purpose of this assembly common fund is one, to ensure the equitable distribution of the national resources for the development in every part of Ghana, and to improve housing schemes, to support sanitation management. It is to also strengthen decentralization and to promote sustainable self-help development communities, and to improve upon primary health care delivery in all parts of Ghana. It is to also improve the country's educational facility and to ensure quality education. The fund supports community policy. So you can see the purpose of this assembly common fund itself actually direct areas that the money has to be spent. So when the money is given to this assembly, it's supposed to be spent in terms of housing, in terms of sanitation, in terms of this assembly developmental agenda of this assembly, then health, educational facility, and all that, right? Sources of funds that we have said that already. The sources of funds to the common fund is the minimum of 5% of total tax revenue, which is transferred quarterly into the fund. Sources of funds to this assembly common fund is 5%, minimum of 5% of the total tax revenue transferred quarterly to the fund, and then income from the investment of the fund. Once the money has been put in the fund, the money in the fund is invested, and the income generated on it is also source of revenue to the fund. Then we have donation and grants. Expenditure charge to the fund includes the disbursement to the ministry to the municipal disassembly. So disbursement to the disassemblies, disbursement to the regional coordinating council, disbursement direct expenditure on behalf of the ministry, department, and agencies, that is reserves, and then administrative expenses directly related to the fund administration. So this assembly common fund administrator office will also spend, and so the expenditure incurred at the administrator's office is also part of the expenses that are charged to the fund, right? Then we have areas of spending the share of the common fund. Like I said, if you look at the purpose, the areas where the money is supposed to be shared to be spent are also given. So economic ventures, for example, energy, market, agriculture, service, and roads. Okay, so if the assembly wants to enter into any economic ventures in terms of energy, market, agriculture, you can do that. Then social services like education, health, water support, and recreation, self-help project, educational activities. Then administration. Here, capacity building, you can use the capacity building of the this assembly staff and assembly members, accommodation, office equipment. Of course, assembly members must be developed, okay, in terms of their capacity to understand policies so that they can actually communicate or contribute meaningfully at the assembly in terms of discussions. Then environmental here has to do with sanitation, disaster management, and all that. The MP's common fund. These are the areas that the money will be shared. Then we have the administrator of the district assembly common fund or the administration of this assembly common fund. The functions of the administrator. It used to be Natoshi and the MPP. I don't know who is now the current administrator under NDC, but you can find out. So the fund is administered by the District Assembly Common Fund Administrator appointed by the President. The District Assembly Common Fund Administrator has the following mandatory functions. The first one is that he must propose formula annually for the allocation and distribution of the common fund. So it means that there's no specific formula for sharing the common fund. At the end of every year, the District Assembly Common Fund Administrator is supposed to propose a method for allocation and distribution of the common fund to the municipal, to the metropolitan municipal and district assemblies. Then allocation, and he has to allocate and distribute the common fund quarterly based on the approved formula to the various municipal district assemblies. So he will propose and then send to Parliament. Parliament will approve of the method for distributing or sharing the common fund, and then he comes to then allocate or distribute the common fund quarterly based on the approved formula by the Parliament to the various district assemblies, and then report in writing to the Ministry of Finance on how the fund was distributed and realized and utilized by the various municipal, metropolitan municipal and district assemblies, and then perform any other functions that required by the President of the Republic. Benefit of this assembly common fund, of course, the fund aims at creating jobs for all through programs such as cottage industries. That's why we're saying that for economic development, the district assembly can use part of the fund to actually undertake agriculture, market, and all those activities. So the aim will be to help, provide or create jobs to the people in the area by, let's say, establishing cottage industries and all that. It seeks to get more people gain access to improve healthier through housing. So we said the fund is also used for housing, provision of schools, water, and this thing. So it seeks to get people gain access to improve shelter through housing, and also through the fund, health facilities are expanded and improved to make health delivery accessible to the people. Through the fund, various schools, buildings, and its structures have been created or have been constructed for the increasing needs of the population. And then through this assembly common fund, or the fund encourages and support communities that make effort to initiate their own development project. Okay, that is community initiated programs. Challenges of this assembly common fund. The fund has also challenges. Of course, once we have advantages, it will have challenges as well. So the challenges that the assembly common fund faces, it delays in the release and disbursement of the fund to the MDAs. The fund is supposed to be released every quarter, but sometimes the quarter will just finish, the money hasn't come. The first quarter, we may enter into the second quarter, even finishing the third quarter before the money will come. So whatever activities you have planned, and this will be a problem. So delays in the release of the funds with this government interference in the allocation and disbursement of the fund is also another problem. The thing is, this assembly common fund allow the administrator to do the right, but because the government in power, because they want to direct their activities or their political campaigns to areas, they sometimes come interfere with how the allocation is supposed to be done. And that is a challenge. Also, inadequacy of the fund. We are just talking of 5% of the tax revenue in the country. And how much is the tax revenue? The tax revenue will collect itself always not enough to, so if you are taking only 5% for all districts in this country, how can this do? So it's always inadequate. Okay, if you are a district, you don't have any means of generating funds, money internally, then you always have problem. Because if you want to rely on this common fund, it's always not enough. We have mentioned a whole lot of areas that these funds might be used. So how you can see how inadequate it will be. Also, misappropriation and financial malpractice of the disassemblies level. If you see, the money itself is not enough, but when it comes, then the chief executives and then whoever the coordinating council and all this want to also may get their part, and so there's always misapplication. There's difference between misapplication and malpractice or embezzlement. Take note, misapplication is where the money is not used for what is supposed to be used. We have budgeted for what we are given. We are supposed to use for building of schools and those things, provision of water, provision of housing and those things. Now, when it comes, they now use it for a different thing to benefit their own selves. Then malpractice here means any other form of corruption that goes on in this assembly to divert the fund to their private use. That is the issue here. Then over-reliance on the fund by some district assembly. Of course, it's not their fault. Some of the districts, they don't have any other means of getting internal generated fund. So the only one they rely on is this assembly common fund. So they over-rely on it. And so it retards their innovative and financing activities. So let's look at financial reporting by the disassembly. Financial report by the fund administrator. The administrator of the common fund is obliged to submit to Parliament an annual report on the activities undertaken during the preceding financial year. The report should include information on the manner in which the monies lodged in the common fund has been distributed and the report of the auditors general on the account. So it is a part of the Local Government Act that at the end of the year, the administrator of the common fund must submit report to the Parliament detailing how the money deposited in the fund has been used, has been distributed. And this account or this report must be audited by the Auditor General. The financial report of the common fund is basically made up of income and expenditure, and then statement of financial position using the state of the fund, showing the state of the fund. So basically, you have to just show income and expenditure, and then the position of the fund. The state of the fund, the position of the fund is how much do you have, how much have you spent, what is left. Okay, so the following trial balance has been extracted from the District Assembly Common Fund as at 31st December. So we have the investment, bank. Then you have investment income. Okay, you have common fund distributed for the period. Petty cash. Take notes. We have debit and credit. The ones at the debit are more or less expenditure. The ones at the credit are income and liability. You know what we mean by trial balance. So investment here is money that they took for investment. It's an asset for them, right? But the money investment is the money they have invested in the other securities. Then bank, that is asset they have at the bank in terms of cash at the bank. Then you have investment income, that is interest obtained from the investment. We have common fund, that is the amount they receive from the common fund allocation. That is 367,500. Then we have petty cash, and you know what is petty cash? That is amount that was kept in the impress interest system. So the petty cash is 700. Provision for depreciation, that is accumulated provision on whatever asset the assembly has. That is provision for depreciation, which is it's a provision. Once a provision, it's not necessary expenditure, it's a provision. That's why it's at the credit side. Then we have depreciation expense. That is a depreciation charge for the period, for the year. Depreciation charge for the year, that is the depreciation expense. That one is 200. Utility, that is an expense, so it is there. Then property, plant, and equipment. Remember that we are making provision for that. So property, plant, and equipment at cost now is 20,000. Then we have distribution to the various MDAs. We have Aguna District, where we distributed 22,000. Is it Game West? This is Gami West District. We have 26,000. Then Biposo MA, we have 17,000. Then KB or Kibi DA, this assembly, we have 30,000. So total. Then Goma Metro, that is so total distributed gave you what do you call it, 170,000. Then we have distribution to the local regional coordinating council. So regional coordinating Kumasi, Accra, Cape Coast, we gave you all of them 30,000, so 12,000 total. Total expenditure or total at the debit side equal to the total at the credit side. All right. So additional information: the following, the balance of the common fund as at 31st January 2017 was this. That is the balance of the common fund as at 21st January 2017 was 67,500. Right. So you are required to prepare the statement of financial position. You are required to prepare a statement of financial performance of the administrator for the year ended at 3rd December 2017, and prepare the statement of financial position of the administrator at the 3rd December 2017. So basically, you know what goes into the statement of financial performance. Statement of financial performance is about revenue and expenditure, income and expenditure, right? To be able to know what the performance has been in terms of surplus or profits. Then statement of financial position is to assess or to show the position of the fund in terms of the assets, liability, and then the accumulated fund. Okay, so let's look at the solution for District Assembly Common Fund statement of financial performance for the year ended the 3rd December 2017. We are talking of the receipts, right? If you look at the question, income, we have income from investment, 1,300. Have you seen? That is 1,300. Investment income, 1,300. We have this assembly common fund total to be, that is 6,000. So if we had the balance, we are told that at the balance of the common fund, the balance of the common fund at the start of the year was this. So if in the course we have 367,000, then how much did we receive? Because we added what we received to what we have at the beginning to give us what we have in the fund. So at the end of the December, what is in the fund is 367,500. Now we were told that at the beginning of the fund, at the beginning of the year, we had 65,500. It means that in the course of the year, we receive how much? 300,000. So that is why you see in there. Please, are you with me? My student, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Hello. Okay. Let me see.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please. Okay. Right. So you are there. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
All right. So we are talking about the report that the administrator of the public this assembly common fund supposed to submit to parliament, and this report, financial report, has to be audited. And the two main reports that the administrator will submit, which has to be audited by the auditor, is the statement of financial position, a statement of financial performance, and a statement of financial position. And so from the trial balance that was given, we are just trying to now get the statement of financial position. And so it's just the income and the expenditure. Remember that I said income. If you look at the statement of financial, the trial balance, you need to be able to identify the income and the expenditure. Investment here is an asset. Bank balance is an asset. But you have investment income. This is an income. The fund, of course, the money in the fund is our income, right? Then petty cash. It's an asset. Balance of the petty cash is an asset. Provision for depreciation. Once we have an asset and the provision, it means that we are going to just determine how much we have as the book value of the asset. So provision here is there, and then you have depreciation expense. Of course, depreciation expense for the current year will be added to the accumulated depreciation, and that will be taken from the asset to get the net book value. Is that you know that? So you have the utility, which is an expense, and then you have the property, plant, and equipment, which is an asset. Then disbursement. This is money disbursed to the various district assembly, and that is going to be an expenditure. So you have the disbursement to the total of them there. Then you have disbursement to the RCC. This is also expenditure. So you have the total balance. So if you are preparing statement of financial performance, then you are just looking at revenue or income and expenditure. You can say revenue as well, revenue and expenditure. So you have the income from investment. Then we have the this atomic common fund received. And I'm telling you how we got the receipt. Because if we have the total fund, the total amount in the fund to be 367,000, 367,500. And we are told that at the beginning of the year, we have 65,500 in the fund. Then how much did we receive into the fund? Which will be the revenue or the income we got for the period? Is going to be the difference between the two, which is 300. So that's how come we got the 300. Is that right? Are you getting it? So total revenue income is now become 301,300. Now you come to the depreciation. Depreciation for the period is, that is the annual depreciation is 2,000, because we are told that depreciation for the period is 2,000. Okay, that's 2,000. That is the depreciation expense, 2,000. Then you have utility, 2,000. Then disbursement to MDAs, total of it will be an expense. Then disbursement to the RCC, total of it will be an expense. So you take this one from the amount we have as an income. You have excess of income over expenditure. Then the balance you have at the beginning, that is the opening balance. You add, you have the closing balance of that. Any difficulty with the solution? Any difficulty with the solution? It's very simple, because we are talking of income and expenditure. So the depreciation for current year, depreciation expense is an expense, utility is an expense, total disbursement to MDAs is an expense, total disbursement to RCC, total of it gives you the total expenditure. Take it from the revenue, you got the excess income over the expenditure, or can say excess income. Then you add the opening stock you have, which is to the closing stock, and you have the balance of fund. Okay, fund balance at the end of the year. So now, if you come to the statement of financial position, we are just trying to show the assets and liabilities to get the fund balance, right? So if you look at it, you have the property, plant, and equipment, which is the fixed asset. You take away uh, current depreciation. Okay, you take away current depreciation, and it's supposed to be now. Let me look at it because we're supposed to current depreciation. We have the accumulated depreciation to be what? Provision for depreciation to be 200. Provision for 2,000. Okay, so it means that it's the same thing. We provided for 2,000, and the actual depreciation is also 2,000. So that is all. It balances. Okay. So if there were difference, then the difference would have been the provision. We'll have just look at the current depreciation and then the provision. This is a provision. Okay. It's not, they didn't say accumulated depreciation, they said provision for depreciation. So we provided for 2,000 as depreciation, and the actual depreciation for the expense was also 2,000. If we had difference between the thing, we have looked at either the actual is less or more, then we have adjusted. But because the actual and then the provision are the same, they won't have any effect on the asset. So the accumulated depreciation for the period, or the depreciation for the period, is 2,000. Okay, then we have the investment as an asset. So we add the investment to it. That's a fixed asset. The current asset, we have the bank petty cash, bank balance and petty cash. That gives you that. And when you add the two, you have the fund, which is the balance at the end of the period. So that gives us the fund balance. So the fund balance, we have the asset, fixed asset, and so that is the fund balance here. That's what we have as a fund, because our fund supposed to be equal to what we have in terms of the assets. We don't have any liability in there. So that's, if there were liability, we would have taken before we get the fund, but there's no liability. So that was the solution. Any question up to this point? Right. So we can just talk about the final account of the multiple thing. It's not many. This side is not many. I know you.
It's 10 p.m.
Again.
Oh,
It's
it's
10.
10 p.m.
Yes, what I'm saying is that I know it's 10 p.m., but this aspect is not just money. It's just the sources of revenue for the Race Assembly, and also as you can just. So I'm just explaining some few things to you, and then you can. And because for the account of this assembly, it's not any difficult thing, or you think that we have to go? Okay, so now when can we get? Your thing coincided with end of semester examination, and we are doing the examination too. That is my problem. The previous time it wasn't like that. Now the Saturday, Sunday, or we are invigilating.
It's well.
Come again.
I said it's well. This time too, all our evening days were packed with classes. So sometimes you have to sleep and wake up at dawn. It's not easy for us at all.
Okay. Okay, then you. But at least from Monday coming, there won't be any lectures for you. When are you writing your exams?
Next week, Saturday and Sunday. Saturday coming next.
They have to give you some time. Oh.
Awesome.
Because after Unit 4, we have to finish. We have to finish Unit 4 and then even discuss some few things about it. But my questions is going to be Unit 1 to 4.
Okay, if you can, we can meet again on next week Monday then, or maybe
No, Saturday we'll meet. Saturday we have a meeting at 6 o'clock.
okay. So
We'll meet
maybe
at 6
from that
o'clock.
time.
And this time, Sunday, I will make time for us to meet Sunday to after 12, after your class.
Okay.
After your class, we'll
Okay.
meet at least. I will just do some things more there, and then we'll meet that time too.
Okay.
So that
So
Friday,
that we can finish.
okay. So Friday, 6 o'clock.
Saturday or Friday.
Hey, Saturday. By Friday, you have lecture.
We have auditing, yes.
So Saturday, 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay. And then Sunday, 12:30 or what?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right. Then let me leave you to go.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you.